Merry Meet Annie here. I have some thoughts that I wanted to share in the interesting world of consideration of the blended path. Very interesting videos I have been seeing recently from a lot of people that I truly respect that have very different perspectives, one to the other. I hadn't originally intended to do a video. Not something I'm struggling with at the moment in my community, within those parts of the community that I am aligned to others. But viewers asked me questions, wanted to know what my thoughts on it were, and why I like every one of the conversations we have here is seeing what each of us think. My first thoughts, for those who have been paying attention to and sometimes struggling with what seems sometimes to be really opposing views on the concept of blending paths. The first thing, if you are someone who is seeing it and feeling it's challenging, me personally, it's not about you personally. We learn more about the opinions of others in this particular conversation, and then we do whatever impact that might have on us, unless for some reason their opinion matters greatly to us. Their insights into how it feels for someone else, what it's like to be someone else, what their perspective is. Just like whatever I end up sharing in this video is an insight to how I think, it's not a reflection on you, no matter the opinion you hold when it comes to blending paths. You'll learn more about me in this video. You're not learning anything about truth or what is or what might be. You're just seeing one person's perspective. I have respect for all of the views I have seen. Not always for how they are presented, but I respect that I'm having the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the person that's sharing. Very specific, sometimes views. I have some thoughts on those of any practice that say another cannot be that. Sometimes with a very specific list of reasons that matter to them. It made me think back to the first times I encountered this kind of thing. It had nothing to do with the blending at that point of various religious paths. It had more to do, first, I think, with the concept of the word witch and what it might mean, and a discussion within the community about those who could and could not be, and especially a conversation that lasted for years. It kept being revived and brought back regarding whether one could be a witch alone. Yeah, I know you've probably encountered people who've had discussions and debates about whether one can be a Wiccan alone. I'll get to that in a minute. But this had to do with actually being a witch alone, and whether you could be. And many with the opinion you simply could not be, many with the opinion that you could well be. Those with the opinion you could not be acknowledge that being a witch had to do with your connection to the energies of the world around you, to the earth, to the understanding of it, how you could work with that energy, how you could align with plants, the land, to affect change. The reason they said it could not be done alone was because they saw that the witch was someone who offered healing or blessing or cursing. They didn't operate within a singularity. They didn't say that a witch could be a witch alone. I don't know what they would have named someone who used all of their powers for themselves and not for others. I never did have an opinion about the witch or the witch alone, but some of the conversations I've been seeing recently reminded me of that. And then there was also the concept of Wicca. If a Wiccan could be a solitary, was there such thing as a solitary Wiccan? Oh, I've admitted to previously on this channel, it took a long time before I decided to release the concept of what was or was not a Wiccan in a more contemporary sense. I still hang on to it at the intimate level. I think I've been honest before, that if I held true here in a public forum to what the word means to me personally, none of you who say you are Wiccan would be, in my estimation. The very fact that you feel the need to declare it, be public about it in any way, changes my perception of who you might be. To me, it was never meant to be something brought into the public eye in any way. Interestingly, by that definition, I couldn't even call myself a Wiccan, could I? I point that out because we all have notions, ways we have captured the world around us, how we define things, how we relate to them, how we think something is or is not that. We all have our own form of single-mindedness, if not downright prejudice. We can all have one-track vision. So those thoughts on witch and Wiccan, they were my earliest experience of being told, or sometimes telling, who could or could not be any particular thing under this large umbrella of experiences that we all share. Then, like now, the thread that I see weaving its way through these kinds of conversations on who is not, and especially some recent videos on the concept of the blended path, both from those who practice it and those who challenge it, is most who challenge another don't really know the practice and beliefs held by the other. Most of the information we are seeing in the videos that are against the concept of blending, we're seeing mostly the blending of Christian and Wiccan practices. But we're also prone to challenge the blending of any two spiritual practices or sets of belief. What we're seeing a lot there is it's not possible to capture a wide picture of what any one of us is, in the sense that I don't represent some group or some wider combination of practitioners. I'm just me, living my practice, living out my beliefs in a way that I understand, that holds meaning for me. It's not possible when we think of a consideration of blended paths to make a blanket statement, not to my mind. Obviously, it's very possible to any on either side of the debate who do so. Very possible for them, the way that they think. Not for me. It's a one-off kind of conversation. It's always interesting to find out why someone is comfortable adopting what can seem to me a practice that I don't see how it aligns to the other aspects of what I understand they bring to it. It's a matter of coming to understand what that means for them. We can always seek to uncover the places we think we're different from others. It's not as easy to uncover the places that we have similarities, because we have to come to know each other very well to arrive there. These discussions of blended paths can become problematic from both perspectives. They can be from the perspective that you can't blend your path with mine, because how do you know what mine is? How do I truly know what yours is? There's a lack of knowing there that limits that conversation. And from the perspective of the person who is looking to bring a certain perspective into an established practice of some kind, we wonder what they are bringing, why they are bringing, how does it align to the greater picture of the practice they're engaging in. it's natural to wonder, oh, wasn't there a mystical aspect of what they already did that is different from and not necessarily connected to what, for instance, I do? There's challenges looking at the perspective from both ways. I'm not denying that. I think what's at the source of those things is generalities. How often do we have problems in our community when we speak in generalities? And specifics that interest me are the human specifics, person to person seeking to understand each other rather than seeking to challenge each other. That works for me. Doesn't have to work for everybody. That's what works for me. I had the opportunity recently, to a limited extent, to engage in a conversation about Christians who presented themselves to traditional witchcraft circles, present themselves for inclusion or study or to practice with or be part of. The decision right at the beginning, how do you handle that and what do you do? I went back to thinking about the times when I led circles. It wasn't necessarily about Christians. It was folks from all kinds of religions. It was even the consideration of taking someone in as a student who was very, very non-deist. So it covered a wide range of experiences. When folks came to my early circles who wanted to combine Christianity, sometimes other religions, with our practices, present themselves for instruction, there was a conversation that we had before we would consider that. There wasn't the automatic sense that it couldn't be that I'm sometimes encountering now. Could be. And as time goes on, everything defines itself in such a strict way that there is more of a knee-jerk, immediate reaction to no, can't be. But it wasn't that way when I've encountered it in reality. I wanted to use a real example of the blending of paths. Christians who presented themselves to us, who identified as Christians, who saw Jesus as an avatar, either as an aspect of divinity, not divinity itself, or as an incarnated teacher, sharing of wisdom at a spiritual level, didn't necessarily face a brick wall when it came to petitioning to join our study circles. They had a concept sometimes of God in the wider sense that was not so different than how we saw the concept of the Triton. They had a historical relationship to the religion of their family, many coming from Christian families, that were outside of biblical or dogmatic specifics. They had a relationship to history that was different than a lot of the Christians we would have known who were more conservative in nature. They had a relationship to the words of the Bible as words of human wisdom, but not as the words of God, different than a lot of the Christians we had encountered in our lives. It doesn't mean that some didn't come to us with such specific beliefs that set themselves up as not a potential for blending who they were with what they might become amongst us. Concepts of sin and redemption, or the infallibility of spiritual leaders, or the words in the Bible, for instance, is the words of God rather than a collection of stories with parables and teaching examples in them. It was fascinating that we had a lot of Christians who presented to us when we were first making contact outside of our rather cloistered circles, who when they came to study with us, and it got to the part of the study where we were studying the Corpus Hermeticum, or the Emerald Tablet for Existence, there wasn't much we could teach them about either of those things. They had a deep historical understanding that went outside of some parochial, local, more recent experience of Christianity. That doesn't mean everybody was a good candidate to study with us, but many were. That's where my belief in the power of the blended path lies. In practical experience of those who presented themselves, who had an historical relationship to the tradition of Christianity. That's where my experience of the power of the blended path and reality has come from. I did not want to speak in this video from the what if, what might be's of a blended path. I see the challenges and the pitfalls of trying to force what you are into something that's truly not a greater expression of that very same thing. There was probably another way to investigate what that might have been. But there's also the power of bringing what you know into a new way of recognizing that and expanding that and exploring that. Doesn't put one against the other, to my mind. Again, coming from not my place of knowing when it comes to the history of any religion in a true sense. I am not an historian. I have a general understanding of the history of the religions of the world. What I'm most interested in now, and always have been, is what does that mean for each practitioner? How does history, reality, dogmatic behavior, where's the true truth within? What are they seeking? What have they found within their path? I ask that same question of Wiccan brothers and sisters, especially after I widened my consideration of what that might mean, instead of holding on to that original limited perspective. I had every right to hold on to that original limited perspective, but for me, releasing connection to any particular word and instead asking each individual person, not challenging the reality as my reality is true. My reality happens to be one that includes curiosity about another's path, what is and is not for them. What we have in common, the places we can blend. It's interesting then to discover the places where we find we cannot. I've gotten better personally at those places not being the places that come from my personal belief of what someone else is, what they represent, what their experience has been, what their understanding of their path and its history, what in it inspires them. What did they choose to give up from what I might perceive as another religion that has tenets and concepts that I don't grasp? I have found amongst all the religions that I have been in contact with beautiful places of connection. Not just connection like this, but blending. But it's only been about asking questions of those who present with a different perspective than mine. I see any blending as an opportunity to understand others and to understand a little bit more about ourselves. Yep, I've learned lessons about myself that have to do with my judgmental, single-minded, tunnel vision perspectives at times. That's been a good thing. I only got the better for realizing I go there too. I have a simplistic view of it in the end, no matter my meandering thoughts in this video. We go out in search of community, connection, a sense of belonging to something wider. And we will encounter, all of us, no matter our chosen path, no matter how we define ourselves, we're going to encounter others that see who they are, the label they hold for themselves as an exclusive club with limited membership. We've done it too. Almost all of us have an opinion at times about other people's business. If someone else is holding a charter to something specific that they feel you cannot be a part of, so be it. their very hanging on to that means you don't want to be a part of it. Not as they perceive it, but there'll be someone else who perceives it differently. We go in search of tribe, kinship, and community, and there's plenty to be found. We too come to understand what we see, who we see as like us and not like us. And then choice enters the picture. Who will we align ourselves to? Who will we let influence and inspire us? Probably like to like. The fun, the fascinating, the wonderful part of living outside of expectations is to look for that. Who is like me that I might not have originally thought was. To me, that's the greater possibility of connection in the wider community. There will be others like us, no matter the label they choose for themselves. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Mary Part.